Hi everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today is from someone who listens to our show and is putting into practice some of the things we talk about, namely to ask God for inspirations, ask God for directions, and then do what he tells you to do. The only rule we need in that process is if it's something bad, don't do it, because we must be confused. God wouldn't tell us to do something bad. And if you're in doubt, don't do it. But if you believe God is telling you something and it's a good thing, always, if you think he's telling you something and it's a good thing, do it and see what happens. So this person is trying to practice that and got a couple of miracles. The first one was this past summer they were inspired to go to a beach, and as they were driving over, they got inspired to change their mind and go to a different beach. And so it wasn't a bad thing, just a change of plans, but they were praying for wisdom, so they went where they were inspired. Turns out that when they got to the beach that they were going to, one of the people who sat down next to them with a blanket had a tattoo on their thigh, and the tattoo was 3 capital letters L, capital L, and so they had the courage to ask the person what the 3 L's stand for, and I think it's funny that what the person responded with was, it's not 3 L's, it's 3 sevens, and that's the number for God. And so that was a sign that this person who listens to our show and hears about 3 sevens on our show was at the right place. And it's also comical because the person looking at the other person's thigh saw 3 L's, but the person looking down at the tattoo on their leg obviously saw 3 sevens when they were looking down at their own thigh on their own leg. They tell us that they were so happy to get a confirmation that they really did choose God's will correctly by going to the beach and seeing the 3 sevens, even though they changed their mind about which beach, that the next day they were going to church and they asked for an inspiration on what to do that day for things they were going to do. They were inspired to go to a different church than they normally go to. So it's not a bad thing. So they said, okay, I'll try that. So they went to a different church than they usually go to, and they asked God again to please show some coincidence that this was his will, that they really did get an inspiration. And it turns out they got a great example because they met someone at this church, an old friend of theirs they hadn't seen in a while, and they renewed their friendship. They had a nice talk, and they spoke for about a half an hour after church. And the reason was the friend that they met was having some difficulties with some things that this person had good experiences at. So they spoke for about half an hour, and he was able to give them good advice based on his experience and renew their friendship. And then after that, they had to go pick up some things at the store, and so they thought they'd try this again since they were doing so well with asking God for inspirations. So they asked God for inspirations about which store to go to, and they were inspired to go to a different store than usual. And what happened then was they met two people at the store they went to, which they saw at the new church they went to on this particular day. So the coincidence was that they were led to a place to go shopping, and they met two people that were actually at the church services they went to that morning. And that coincidence would not have happened if they went to the church they normally went to. So all of this is adding up to it works. You ask God for inspirations. You ask God to guide you. And you can ask him to show you that you made the right choices because he's trying to tutor everybody. He's trying to show everybody that he does indeed respond when we ask him questions, and he wants us to spread that good news everywhere. There's a place in the Bible, John 10:27, that says, John 10:27, Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me." Once again, John 10:27 says, "My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me." Our next coincidence miracle is from a local listener to our radio show. They had two doctor appointments one day, kind of back to back. They were concerned about both doctor's appointments because they weren't feeling good about some things. So they prayed for help, prayed for hope that things would go well. And the coincidence miracle they tell us about is they went to the first doctor and pulled in to park their car, and they saw a cab pulling out, and the phone number on the cab was 860-222-2222, all twos after the 860. And you know, the number 3 twos indicates that your partner is 2 by 2 with God. Each of us is a partner with God, 2 by 2. We do everything, hopefully, if he's our best friend, hopefully, we're doing everything with him 2 by 2. So that license plate was a confirmation that God was with this person. Then they went to the second doctor, and as they pulled into the second doctor, they were leaving. As they were leaving the second doctor, they saw the cab go by before they pulled out of the driveway. Perfect timing. And that cab, same phone number, 222. So it's a confirmation, it's a coincidence miracle of hoping and trusting in God and seeing clues like this. We've been reporting on these now for 3 years, so I'm glad to see people are noticing the same thing with cab phone numbers, etc. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone also a listener who tells us they've heard stories like this in the past, so they tried it one day. They wanted to stop in and see their eye doctor, and call, make a appointment. Could take days. They had to go by CVS and pick up some information on some scripts for their meds. They had to get their tires changed, and they needed their brakes checked. So they just thought, well, some other people do it. So they prayed for wisdom on which order to go, and they just took off and drove over to these places in the order that they were inspired to go. And they got instant service as they walked into each place. The eye doctor had an opening on the books when they walked in, so they got that. CVS had the information readily available. It took just 2 minutes to pick it up. When they got to get their car serviced for their tires and the brakes, they just got a cancellation there as well, so they were able to slot righted in. So it's a marvelous coincidence miracle of praying for wisdom, inspired on which order to go and do which things, and they got everything taken care of very efficiently versus making appointments, which would be over several days. And actually, if you set appointments, they'd be set on different days over several days, and you'd never get all this done in one morning. So this was a great coincidence miracle. Our next coincidence miracle is something that happened to me this past summer. I was at the beach passing out cards, as you know I do typically. And I was asked by some people, as I was passing out cards, they were asking me to share some of the miracle stories in my life. And as I went along, I got inspired which items to share with which people. When somebody asks me to share a miracle with them, I ask God in my mind to please inspire me with what story would be apropos for them, because each people has a different inclination. Some things that are miracles for one person are not miracles necessarily for somebody else. So I asked God, this was this past summer, which miracle to share, and so he inspired me to share with this person a specific miracle that had happened 1 year earlier. And the miracle was, and you might remember it from the past, but the miracle was that I was at the beach a year earlier, and I was answering people's questions on the word inspired and what inspirations are and how inspirations work. And basically, fundamentally, an inspiration means the Spirit of God is coming into you. It's two words. The word inspired is two words, inspired. And when you say you're inspired, what you mean is the Spirit of God has just entered your mind and gave you a thought. So an inspiration is a thought, an idea that you get from God. So I was explaining to these people a year earlier that the meaning. And the miracle was that a year earlier, after I was at that beach and had explained that and then spent some time talking to some other people, I left the beach to go to my car. And when I got to my car, you may remember from this past story that we talked about a year earlier on the radio, but when I got to my car, as soon as I got to my car, another car pulled into park right next to me, and the license plate on that car had the word inspired. It was a Connecticut license plate, and the word was inspired, and it's a normal Connecticut license plate. You could check with motor vehicle and I guess see that there is such a plate. So I just left the beach and explained what the word inspiration meant, etc., and how to do that. And now I got to my car and saw this plate. Really a remarkable, stunning coincidence miracle. And so I stopped the person, waved at them and said, "Excuse me, but can you tell me about that license plate and why and how you do that and how come you have a plate inspired?" And they said, "Oh, sure." And they explained to me. They came to appreciate and know and see the value of daily inspirations from God, and they tell everybody also, ask God what to do and you'll be inspired. Well, the reason why this is a great miracle at the moment is because this was a year later now, and somebody asked me to share a miracle story, and I shared that story with them on this particular day. So I told them exactly what I just told you. I said a year ago, and I went out and I saw this license plate in the driveway parking lot. Well, after I was done, I left this beach and I was getting ready to go home, and I walked out to my car, and wouldn't you know, I got to my car. This is 1 year later from a year ago, and the same car with the license plate inspired came and showed up parking about 4 cars away from where my car was parked. So this is amazing. I notice it might be hard to believe, but people at the beach told me to share a miracle with them. I told a miracle about a prior year. The car inspired showed up the prior year after I told somebody about what inspiring was. And then after I told these people that miracle story, which impacted them greatly, they appreciated the story. I walk out to my car. I'm leaving for the day. And I get to my car, and the same car from a year ago pulls in about 4 parking spaces away from where I'm parked. Totally, absolutely a coincidence miracle par excellence. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.